The 5th of July, 2022. Thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to my official YouTube channel, like my official YouTube videos, and go to my website, www.susanmeling.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com. I will put in the link section, or the information section, the link that had sparked this particular official YouTube video of mine, the 5th of July, 2022. Now remember, there's already the Uvalde, Texas shooting that happened less than 2 months ago. You have additionally now the Highland Park, Illinois shooting that happened over the 4th of July weekend, as far as the reports are concerned. Now, in regards to the situations which I've brought up since the 1980s into the 1990s, the 2000s and the 2010s, into now into 2022 or 2022. So this is going on 35 years, because I had told my biological mother and my biological father that the people that were in Asher Holmes Elementary School were acting weird, and I hadn't ever seen those people act that way. The more that people got involved with watching movies or pop culture that were not documentaries on anything that had to do with real human existence, and watched television in those capacities, had more difficulties as to in-person, face-to-face in-person, because they became parrots. They started mimicking what they were watching human beings do in those shows. Now, in the same factors, the individuals who watched more cartoons, whatever those cartoons happened to be, they'd still quote certain things, but they would not do the same things as to what the others did. And as time progressed forward in the 1980s to the 1990s, my biological mother and my biological father didn't want to accept reality. Then, in reference to them not paying attention to the 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling, she went over to a bunch of other people's houses where she watched a bunch of cable television. And that's usually where it went as to those particular situations. Then you add the facts as to when it was moved from New Jersey to Illinois. And the first day of school, my biological father got the phone call from the substation police officer because of all of the lies that the different people told in regards to the police substation police officer. As far as, I know how people are from New Jersey, that's how they walked around the school. A bunch of people didn't believe me, as far as the few that I spoke with on the phone, but even before, because when I had been taken out with my biological sister as to Illinois, we went out to Illinois, and it was to visit our cousins, Kate and Allie, as to my biological mother's half-sister, Edie, and her second husband, Mark. And all of them would only quote shows in comparison to discussing anything. And when they would discuss something, as soon as it was a serious topic, they'd go and revert to the pop culture. So by the time of getting back to New Jersey, I didn't know we were going to move at all. I was infuriated as far as that was concerned. Nonetheless, I told people at St. John Vianney High School about what the individuals as to my cousins, Kate and Allie, kept doing. They wanted to do this garbage. Oh, say this, say that. You have an accent. You say this, you say that. And I refused to be a parrot, because they wanted me to say certain words because of the New Jersey or East Coast accent. And so I had to actually overemphasize so that way they understood in St. John Vianney High School what I was talking about. A female named Kelly, who was friends with Jesse, who had dated a guy that was baby cousin, mama, daddy, second removed sort of thing. Kelly, who had dark brown, if not black hair, kind of like this, was friends with Jesse, who had ginger-ish I had told Kelly in class as to what the people in Illinois were doing. Or I don't know if I can really call them, the high schoolers and elementary schoolers were doing in Illinois. And Kelly didn't understand, and so I actually literally had to be like, they wanted me to say dog, because I had to actually, because we're, in New Jersey, we hear whatever it is, and it is what it is. The accent aspects that some people have told me that when I get angry, oh, okay, well then the East Coast sounding accent comes out. But in order to actually make attempts to have the people in the class actually understand how alien those people were as to the comparison of New Jersey was ridiculous. A bunch of the people in the cafeteria I literally went to explain as best as I could, and they were like, no, Susan, those people, and I'm like, I don't know if you want to call them people because I don't know what they're programmed. They seemed like actual computer programs in comparison, especially being in New Jersey where we were, in Homedale, New Jersey, as to the amount of technology companies, they literally sounded like actual programs if programs had come to life. And a bunch of people were like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, the irony is if I actually had spoken with, I think it was Josh Landau, if I had spoken with him and been capable to tell him what I was seeing in Illinois, he probably actually would understand as far as what the coding would be as to those people regarding the situations or programs or whatever as far as that was concerned. And instead of actually having real discussions, they were literally like, the closest reference I could give is the Polly want a cracker in one of the Disney movies. Say this, Polly, in comparison. And it was one of those, you people. I don't even know if and I actually said this at a point in time, I think it was my third week in Crystal Lake South High School. You people don't even look like people. You don't sound like people. I haven't ever met anybody that's anything like you. And so, okay, yeah, I know now I have my tattoos and my hair, okay, whatever. But I'm not the only person who's ever had short hair as a biological female. I'm not the only person who has used hair color as a biological female. It's actually been quite pathetic as to how many people in the South that I've actually had to explain that to, mainly in the state of Texas. And so while in the state of Texas they had issues as far as when I got my hairstyle the way it is and I started coloring my hair, I had fake blondes try to tell me that my hair looked weird when I let them know that their hair looked like dead hay in comparison to actually having any blondness. Because especially in regards to the way it is on the East Coast when you get your hair colored as to being a blonde, they didn't have that at those times. So then, the references regarding, oh, well, how natural could your hair color be? Well, you see it in flowers. That's one thing. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with you as to how blind you are, but seriously, my hair color is more natural than any of you combined. As far as you is, and this was in Carrollton, Texas, in 2008. I know that there are people who have met me in person, face to face in person, when I've had to defend anything in that regards, and so they know exactly how that went in that regard. But in those references as to those individuals regarding McCoy Elementary School in Carrollton, Texas, they literally had the nerve to complain about the after effects of my head injury. I'm the one who deals with the after effects of my head injury. I don't know what level of ignorance you have to actually think that you have a right to complain about anything. Then there was an actual female that tried to say, well, my constitutional rights. Yeah, you're welcome, bitch. And when I said that, she didn't know what to say. And I just took a step forward and I was just like, just remember, you make fun of me because I am medically retired from the Army. Without me and people such as myself who signed that dotted line, you as a female biologically wouldn't have the right to speak. people such as myself, you wouldn't have those constitutional rights to begin with. And she didn't have anything to say after that. My daughter went and did my daughter's. My mom told you. Come on, Lydia, let's do this. Come on. As my son was, that's right, come on. To be respectful, that's good. And so, but in reference to Crystal Lake, South Illinois, that's all they did. All they did was parrot stuff, and they didn't even realize that they were parroting anything. They didn't have any original thoughts of their own. They didn't even have any experiences of their own. Which, okay, I understand in small towns, there's only so much you can do. I understand when it comes to certain factors, there's only so much you can do. I get that. I understand that. I was the same age. However, they tried to actually make fun of me and tried to shame me for actually having experience. It was the most ignorant amount of wishful thoughts that they put into words that it was ridiculous. Because they actually thought that they're trying to shame me for actually being born and raised in New Jersey. They actually tried to shame me for that. And then they tried to shame me for going up to the 5 boroughs of New York City. They tried to shame me for having known people. They tried to actually shame me. In comparison to being appreciative, I wasn't ever dropping any names. I wasn't ever going and pretending anything. They, on the other hand, wanted to go, I know how people are from New Jersey. And so then in the South, in regards to the state of Texas, outside of the military installation, that's what I dealt with. Literally, the first set of people that I had met outside of the military installation of Fort Sam Houston were these people in regards of raves. Okay, I didn't know that going and just dancing was considered illegal in the Army. Apparently, just going to just dance was a problem, and I didn't realize it. My mistake, I also didn't graduate basic training. I was 17 years old. I had a subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain, and I wanted to do something fun. How dare I? I know that must be just such an annoyance in comparison after how long I had been on the military installation and after having been in a coma for however long I was in a coma. And then in the civilian sector, as to the amount of people that had the nerve to complain that I didn't know how long I was in a coma. These civilians in the civilian sector, especially in the DFW and Austin area, literally got upset with me because I didn't know how long of a time I was in a coma. How ignorant and lacking of any intelligence and lacking of common sense would you actually have to be be upset with someone who doesn't know how long they were in a coma? How stupid do you have to be? Do you think that there's like a clock that you pay attention to when you're in a coma? Like, what is it that people think that as far as a coma? Because you know what? I told this to these people and then they got upset because of the truth. When they went and continued to, well, how long were you in a coma? Well, I don't know. I was in a coma. And then their responses, usually parroted, by the way, the majority of them sounded nothing different than either my biological mother, biological little sister, biological father, or the people from, or parrots from Illinois. As to, well, why don't you know how long you were in a coma? Because I was in a coma. It's pretty simple. And then their usual question was, well, why don't you go and find out? Well, when I went to go look at my medical records, as well as certain other factors as to my work, I had found out that a 1-star or a brigadier general was incapable to get into my military records because he didn't have the background clearance that was approved. So when a one-star general or a brigadier general does not have enough clearance to look into my military records or my medical records, I don't know what math you need to have to understand certain things. When a major, which is a lower rank to a one-star general, though in the neurology field, is not allowed my military or my medical records, oh, excuse me, my apologies that your feelings about what I dealt with have actually mind twisted you that badly that you think that you have a right to be upset with me when you actually don't have the right to be upset with me. Why don't you get upset at the correct reason in comparison to being so stupid? And then they got upset because how dare I use words that hurt their feelings. While they had the nerve to try to complain to me about how I didn't know how long of a coma I had been in. While those people tried to complain to me about how I deal with headaches, while those people tried to complain to me about how I deal with migraines, and while those people tried to complain to me about my memory deficits, how those people tried to complain to me about my cognitive disorders, and how those people tried to complain to me in regards to how I went from college algebra with trigonometry and calculus to second grade math. Those people actually thought that they were more intelligent for that, in comparison to ever thinking about how ignorant they sounded when they spoke at me. So then, fast forward in regards to when, after how my son and I wound up in Washington State, which is something that I had warned people in San Antonio, Texas, if I ever was outside of the state of Texas and had actually moved out, and I didn't inform anybody, as far as, and I was with someone else that wasn't my son and at that time my daughter, but especially, there was a emergency. I started that, I had a vision of that, and I had let people know in the city of San Antonio, Military City, USA, in the year of 2006. I had told people at Nine Lives Books that when I was volunteering, all the different volunteers and staff members, they laughed and claimed that they knew better. Then, in reference to individuals that I knew in the San Antonio pagan community, I told them that I had a vision that if I was outside of this, and it had to be once, one move officially, and there was going to be a problem for all of them because of who would find out. And a bunch of them thought it was a joke, thought it was a game, tried to compare it to a movie. That's what they literally tried to do. In comparison to life experiences, they tried to compare it to a movie or a TV show. This pop culture shit. So then, in regards of, I told my biological mother, told my biological father, oh, no, 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 no. You're just worried. This is no different than when you were in second grade and you had your little nightmare. At this point in time, when I told them, as far as the vision the first time I had it, in comparison to speaking with other people, was 2005. And so their wishful whatever was, oh, no, no. Remember when you were in second grade and you had that nightmare? Yeah, yeah. You mean 1993 and 2001? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember that. Do you remember? And then I counteracted their argument. You remember when I told you what was going to occur to Old Tenant Presbyterian Church if you didn't heed my warnings? Do you remember that? And my biological mother, as far as the gremlin Pinto, was, how dare you? Who do you think you are reminding us that we were inaccurate? Well, you might want to learn from your mistakes so that way you don't repeat history. The gremlin Pinto got all upset, grabbed a glass of water, this gremlin Pinto, and was all, how dare you, you don't know anything, you're this, you're that, you had the nerve to go in. Yeah, you mean save the world. Yes, my mistake, I suppose, because you're still alive. And apparently you haven't learned anything at all. My mistake, I apologize, world. The gremlin Pinto had been allowed to live. I apologize, my mistake. Maybe if I had actually attended Marine and Science Technology School with the Navy attachment. Oh wait, that was that one's fault too. So, there's that. My mistake. I did what I could to attend Marine and Science Technology School. There were a few situations that I was dealing with. But since, I've been blamed for stuff that isn't my fault, since I've been made a scapegoat for stuff that isn't my fault, and I refuse to accept accountability for other people's stupidity, those people, as far as whatever parenting aspects, can accept the responsibility as to the accountability for their stupidity, because I will not allow to be a scapegoat for their ignorance. That's been the facts since I was a child, since I was a teenager, and obviously since being a biological adult. So then there were the situations as far as the 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan, as to one discussion, and then her complaints about the Army and how she had college bills. Yeah, well, you know what? That sucks, but you wanted to go to college. Nobody forced you to go to college. Nobody made you do that. Not any person ever forced you to take a test. Nobody did that. Nobody made you go and pay the application fee. Nobody made you apply for a college loan. Nobody did. You did that of your own free will. I gave the example of how it could be taken care of. And instead, she said she was too good to be in the Army. So then I made the recommendation of a different branch. She said she just was, it was literally those particular factors as to the egotism, because of whatever movie, of whatever pop culture, of whatever excuses that were wishful excuses that were nothing but unexcusable, each and every time, for each and every one of them. So I made attempts to explain this to people throughout the state of Texas. And instead, I dealt with the same thing as Old Tenet Presbyterian Church. Oh, you're a child. Yeah. Instead, it was, oh, you had a head injury. Yeah, that's nice. That doesn't change the fact that I'm accurate. When do you stop complaining about the fact that I'm accurate and actually take me seriously? Because I'm not actually doing anything to cause any of you problems. You are causing yourselves problems. You are stirring yourselves up into a whole bunch of frenzies needlessly. You are the ones that have been doing all sorts of ignorant aspects in comparison to having any seriousness. And so while this sort of stuff went on, and the amount of times that just in the city of San Antonio, so there's Jim's Restaurant on I-10 and Huebner. And so there's the staff members in Jim's Restaurant. There's the retired military guys in Jim's Restaurant that usually would be there in the morning. There's the staff and volunteers from Nine Lives Books that were told about this. And there were people in the San Antonio pagan community who were informed. And then I moved to Carrollton, Texas after 2008. I even told my ex-in-laws about that. My ex-in-laws said, "Ah, ha, 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 that's funny. You're you bought your house and made it a home. Yeah, I know, but I see this problem here, and I see this, and I see that, and so on and so forth." Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, no, 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 no. I do. I do. You remember this? You remember this? You remember this? Yeah, but that was like, those are just like 5 to 10 times when you were 100% accurate. What does it matter? That was 5 to 10 times where you were 100% accurate. This is now. So then, in regards of in Carrollton, Texas, when I got involved in scuba diving, explain to them. And their responses were, You just need to understand. Just be more like relaxed. Just relax. Now remember, in scuba diving, you put a metal tank on your back that is attached to a floaty jacket, for lack of a better term, but it's a BCD, but it's a floaty jacket instead of floaty arms. And that piece of metal for the tank is pressurized air, okay? So it's pressurized air for you to inhale while you descend into the waters below the surface. It's pressurized air. It is literally, it's an explosive attached to your back. If it's hit the wrong way, if something occurs to it, it is literally an explosive attached to your back with a little tube that has an attachment to this explosive on your back regarding this tank that's attached to a floaty jacket. Okay? That's what scuba diving is. You are willing, and they find this recreational and lazy. I don't know what's so lazy. I mean, I guess if you're, I don't know, because you got certain things as far as what I've dealt with. So, they have, they tried to explain to me that they thought that in the civilian sector, scuba diving is recreational and lazy. That's their description. I did not see anything in scuba diving at all. I went to go take care of work as far as handling business in clearing out waters, going and clearing out some issues as far as a few things that I knew about from when I was a child and a young teenager as to personal experiences and handling things. And so, the irony, I don't know if you have any pop culture references. So, I just landed at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico each and every time, you know, surfaced alive safely, handled all that. But these people that said that it was recreational, I don't know how you consider it recreational. So remember, I earned 26 scuba diving certifications because I wanted to make sure I understood my gear and I made as many safe descents into the waters, safe scuba dive as best as possible, and then safe ascent each and every time to the best of my capability. So in reference to these civilian recreational scuba divers as to their laziness, they and I'm going to put a link in regards to the information section to a YouTube video from a Medal of Honor recipient that there are certain inspirational factors for this official YouTube video of mine. Make sure to subscribe to my official YouTube channel, like my official YouTube videos, and if you're going to leave a comment, have etiquette and respect, go to my website, www.susanmealing.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com. So these individuals in the civilian recreational scuba diving lazy sector compared to military scuba divers and law enforcement scuba divers, fire department scuba divers, and EMS scuba divers, which, okay, maybe they're not necessarily called that. Apparently you have the CIA and the Secret Service who have to do scuba diving as part of their training. Obviously, there's certain types of special forces. There's, the MRARs or MARSOC. You've got Navy SEALs as far as obviously, and stuff like that. That's military scuba diving, okay? And so I'm medically retired from the Army. However, I was invited to Marine and Science Technology School with the Navy attachment. Okay, I have work to do. I know exactly what needs to happen. I could tell because of 2002 and then 2004 had to go out to the Gulf of Mexico. I could pick up on the energy, had to go and see what was going on. and then handled it as to what needed to be handled. And then in 2004, there were a few situations that occurred, and I had noticed when I was driving through Austin, I didn't learn until 2009 that there's a lake in Austin, which made so much more sense to me in regards of my scuba diving. Same thing with the Aquarina Hot Springs. I didn't know that there was the Aquarina Hot Springs in San Marcos, Texas. So, okay, that makes perfect sense why I got to take it. That's fine. I'll go handle stuff. All right, 2009, go and take care of everything as best as I can. And as any person who's been in whatever aspect of understands, when you know you got to take care of whatever you got to take care of, and it's part of whatever, you know it's part of whatever. It's whatever it is whatever it is. Civilians, on the other hand, they throw little temper tantrums about that. That's one of those, well, it's none of your business situations. Again, a one-star general couldn't get into my military records. I, I hadn't been on a computer, just for the clarifications. Okay, just in case anybody's like, ooh, you got this background. Yeah, okay, and I hadn't been on a computer yet. So no excuses. No, nothing you can wish as far as that's concerned. So then, as far as 2009, these people, I don't know, I already explained as to the couples, as to my National Geographic Open Water Scuba Dive Certification course, where they were talking about the movie Titanic as to their romance with one another, as to why they were getting involved in scuba diving. I don't really see that as romance. Not the smartest crayon in the toolbox. However, I don't know. I just don't see anything. I haven't seen anything romantic about that movie ever. Back when I saw it in the theater, didn't see how it was going to be romantic when going in to see it. Don't know how anybody was surprised when they did see it, and I don't know how any of them thought it was romantic. Ever. So in 2009 compared to 1990 whatever, they thought it was romance. As they got into scuba diving in the recreational civilian sector as to lazy scuba diving, well, I guess if that's how you view a relationship, you would be lazy. As far as that's concerned, if you find that romantic, in my opinion. I wanted to see the Biodome movie. That seemed like it would be, and it was. It was funny, and it's far more romantic than that Titanic movie. I'm just saying. I'm just saying that Biodome movie has far more romance than that Titanic movie. For those of you into pop culture, just pointing that out there. So in that particular reference, because people lived, there were more people who lived. That seemed about life, and and the two sets of relationships, they lasted. So that seems far more romantic than the Titanic movie. I don't know. I got called stupid for that when I was a teenager. I didn't understand. I didn't understand that at all. Personal opinion. I'm not the smartest crayon in the toolbox. Fairly certain if you're about life, you probably wouldn't think that and about like life with your partner of whatever, romance. You probably. I don't know. I'm not the smartest crayon in the toolbox. Though my ex-in-laws, they thought it was a romantic movie. I don't know how they thought it was a romantic movie, but it is what it is. I don't know why they would call it a romantic movie. It just really doesn't seem romantic. It really doesn't. I don't know how anybody could consider to. I don't care how it's been over a decade and a half since that movie. I don't see how it's romantic. I won't ever see how the movie Titanic is romantic at all. I don't know what's wrong with them to think it's a romantic movie. Biodo, comedy, and romance. And life. Win, win, win. So, again, the civilian, recreational, lazy scuba divers thought that the Titanic movie was romantic. And they think that scuba diving is recreational. So think of what they think is fun. And also think of how lazy, because then you have 2019 in regards to Clear Springs Scuba Park. And if you go to my journal blog, The Ornery PSA, in reference to my website, www.susanmeeling.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com, you can take in consideration the book section where my book, The Modern Day Book, click the link to purchase through Amazon and take that into consideration in reference to the lazy aspects to that purple bottle regarding Clear Springs Scuba Park in Terrell, Texas. So this is what they consider recreational, okay, and lazy scuba diving in the civilian sector. They knowingly put a floaty jacket known as a BCD on them. And they attach a pressurized metal tank to their back. Then they attach what's called a yoke that has their breathing capabilities through this tube that is no more than 1.5 inches in diameter to have what looks like a binky put in their mouth as they have their scuba mask on their face. And then they go in the water with fins on and booties. Sometimes they have a wetsuit, sometimes they have a dry suit, whatever they wear is whatever they wear, and they think that that is recreational. Anybody who knows anything about pressurized metal, as far as, I don't know, I'm not the smartest person in the, I'm not, I acknowledge that. So, and then they have different types of oxygen. They have the regular, air to breathe. Then they have nitrox, or what my biological father calls the juju juice. They have trimix, which is, I don't know what. I made an attempt to go through the class and I couldn't understand the arithmetic. That particular class for that certification, I officially knew how stupid I was in comparison to what I was before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. That officially showed me, because I knew what level of biology, chemistry, physiology, as far as other book studies, though as far as classes are concerned, biology, chemistry, and physics. I knew for a fact that I was down to maybe a little bit lower than what I had been regarding my second grade. But I knew reading through the trimix, as far as not only the scientific portions, but also in reference to the arithmetic, I knew for a fact that my arithmetic was not at the level that it once was. And so those individuals, they have those, and then they have rebreathers, which they rebreathe their own air. And it is a pressurized, bigger metal aspect attached to their back, as far as that's concerned. So where military scuba divers, law enforcement scuba divers, fire department scuba divers, and EMS scuba divers, they utilize that for work. These people consider this recreational and lazy scuba diving. Remember the purple bottle as to Clear Springs Scuba Park in Terrell, Texas. Just pointing that out there, as far as that's concerned. And so while those people complained no differently, as far as if you look at my book section, the 3-volume book series, Adventures of Susan Meeling, Scuba Diver Extraordinaire, links to Amazon as far as those books are concerned, in conjunction to Finding A and Finding the Silver Lining, those 2 books, links to Amazon to purchase in conjunction to the ornery PSA on my website, www.susanmeling.com, which is the same as www.ladydoribell.com. Lazy civilian recreational scuba diving? Yeah, I guess so. Especially with that purple bottle. And so if there were any references as to the pH balance change in regards of the Clear Springs Scuba Park or the reservoir, that's a reservoir drinking water that they go scuba diving in. If there, I mean, I already went over the species as far as that's concerned. If there was a algae bloom that had kicked up, if there, I mean, that's just 3 examples in that reference regarding 2019. And so those people actually complained about me getting educated in regards of the actual terminology for my work. So that way I could explain my work where I could. Again, the link in the information section for certain aspects. So while these individuals, as to the culminations of, I went and handled things. I didn't care about politics while those people did, especially in the year 2009. So then, in reference to the pop culture references though, so I had my car Zippy, and I called my car Zippy my Bumblebee car. These civilian recreational lazy scuba divers, among other people throughout Carrollton, Texas, had freaked out when I said it's my Bumblebee car. And I didn't know why, which then they made fun of me for not knowing why. So then they told me that it was some sort of movie. I only recently saw this movie called Bumblebee in 2020. And my car was not a Camaro, although I have wanted a 69 Camaro RSSS 396 with a 396 cubic inch engine, up from a V6 bumped up to a V8. Chromed out engine with the exception of the flat to the floor, and black leather interior, midnight blue exterior with glittery paint 2-inch strips up the front and the back, dual exhaust. 3 different types, one that's a hardtop, T-top, and a convertible. But in the movie, Bumblebee car is black and yellow in comparison to the 69 Camaro RSSS 396 that I wanted. So, it's what it is. So my Bumblebee car, Zippy as I named her, she had black leather interior, black soft top convertible, turbo engine. And then I also saw a movie later. She did have an attitude. But most of my vehicles have. I haven't ever had a vehicle that hasn't ever had an attitude. Or a personality, I should say. Each one of my vehicles have always had some sort of they had their perception. So there was Serafina, which was my Spider Eclipse convertible. And when an individual in the car had the nerve to complain about my music choice from my iPod, well, then the clutch had an issue, and I got a new car, which was the Honda Civic, the silver one, as far as that was concerned. And so, yeah, that went the way that did. And in comparison, it was as it was. Nonetheless, all of my vehicles have always had their own. I thought that other people had that. I didn't know that, Zippy was different on that. I mean, each one of my vehicles have had a name. I've always named my vehicles. Each one of them have had their ways of certain things. I thought people knew that. I thought people had that. I didn't realize I might be the only person who's ever had that, as far as that's concerned. So, this is it is. But as far as scuba diving in the civilian recreational lazy sector, they completely freaked out about my car. And my car did not like a bunch of them. That is to be on. My car had Zippy had issues with a whole bunch of the civilian recreational lazy scuba divers. She really did. She had it. Her alarm would go off randomly. It's actually kind of funny. But she liked when I had gotten glitter eyelashes and put them on the headlights. I swear I thought her smiling. I swear I thought I saw it where she just was like, it's the funniest thing. And then when I got the flower petals, as far as the tail light covers, it's saw her do that. It's she's a special little bumblebee car, and so so special. She had an attitude though. She really did. She had a huge attitude when I went to Florida. Because I didn't take her with me. Her complaint was that I could have put a hitch in the back of my car and then, trailed her along. No, no, I couldn't. No, no, because I still had to take care of the. And so she had her attitude. She did. She had an attitude. But all of my cars have. All of them. They've always, even when, well, with the exception of the '86 Dodge Grand. Well, actually, no, the '86 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling. The head gasket blew 3 times. And had to replace that 3 times. And it was over. I think the first time it blew up was 250,000 miles, and then the second time was at 275,000 miles, and then 300,000 miles, as far as I was concerned. And then I had gotten the '93 Honda Civic, which we had some fun. As far as that was concerned, that was a good little car. And then handled some stuff, made sure. So I did what I could I did everything I could to maintain that car as best as I could, because I had a weird sensation about it as far as that was concerned. So I don't know. I know that my biological father got the car afterwards, but it is what it is. As far I paid for it, but then the title paperwork in regards of Illinois at that time, and so then you have so many situations all in one. And so my biological mother didn't like that I was invited to Marine and Science Technology School with the Navy attachment. And she didn't like it because even though it was a high school, she thought somehow that meant Patricia, as far as that 19. She had her, whatever it was, as it was. Literally moved from New Jersey to Illinois because of all of the problems that Patricia had. Because this is literally a complaint. And this is what I dealt with in Illinois as well as Texas when you really think about the intellectual level. So this is me pretending from childhood. I overheard this discussion at Old Tennant Presbyterian Church when it was 1998, around, no, it might have been 1997 in November. Okay, like, you need to pay attention. Okay? Like, everywhere Susan has went, I went. Like, it's not fair. Like, Susan, okay, so we both were at Escher Holmes Elementary School, and she's in high school now. go to Asher Holmes Elementary School. I went into kindergarten, and then I found out she had been in kindergarten. And then I went into first grade, and then she had been in first grade too. And then, when I went to second grade, the second grade teachers told me that she had been in second grade. She's older than me. How dare she go to school too? And then, when I was in third grade, I dealt with the teachers talking with me about when she was in third grade. And then when I was in fourth grade, then I had to deal with the teachers talking with me about her in fourth grade. And then when I was in fifth grade, then I had to deal with hearing about how they were glad Susan survived and lived all throughout fifth grade. I just had to hear about how she had been in school and how she had done this and how she did that. And would you believe that in fifth grade it's Asher Holmes Elementary School? She had been in every grade. Every grade in elementary, and she's in high school now. I have not been allowed to have anywhere I could go where she hadn't been already because she had the nerve to go to Asher Holmes Elementary School. Yeah, and then she had the nerve to be invited by Marine and Science Technology School with a nanny attachment for high school, and she didn't think about me. She is so selfish. She is the most selfish person. She didn't think about that. I'm going to totally let her know how she had the nerve to go and do all of that. Because, and anybody who has known so I guarantee, and anybody who went to Crystal Lake South High School, if there was, what do you mean she was in this classroom? Like, what? So she just went to Crystal Lake South High School and went into this classroom? Like, so you're telling me that after she graduated and moved on to whatever, what? You know what? If. But then again, remember, I didn't grow up watching that. So in that particular reference, as to those needless problems, as per how I view it, because unlike what she may have thought, there's this thing called common sense. And if you're older, as I am, I'm 4 years older than that, you're going to go do things first, because when you're older, that's what happens. Yeah, so siblings of, younger siblings of older siblings, surprise. And yet not. But surprise, good morning. Older siblings and people who are biologically older will have certain experiences before you do. They might not have the exact experience. They might know somebody who has the experience. But through the knowledge and experience of said individual, they might have this thing called understanding. Okay? And through this understanding, from the knowledge and experience of other what have you, they learn as to whether or not they want to be a part of that. Because of this knowledge and understanding, and if they have comprehension of themselves. Surprise. But not. Illinois, the pop culture was a big problem. And I don't know how many TV shows or movies were out in regards of for them to be like, I know how people are from New Jersey. What's up? What's up? What's up? That's literally what they would do. And it was one of those, I don't know anybody who has done that. I must be such a loser dork to not know anybody who has ever done that. I mean, I can say I can do this now, making fun of situations being born and raised in New Jersey, but it's different in comparison to back then. And so I made attempts to explain to people in New Jersey at St. John Vianney High School, they were like, no, you don't know anything. As far as Old Tennant Presbyterian Church, they started mimicking these pop culture things early on. So we were still in elementary school and they were mimicking that. And so it was really weird as far as a lot of the stuff that was going on that I had noticed, and a bunch of people didn't see what I was referring to. So then in Texas, as far as that, I had warned people because I had a vision as far as this was concerned. And in one, I literally was in an area that looked like Texas but didn't look like Texas. That had plants that looked like they were in Texas but they were darker in color, and I didn't understand. There was a lot of dust everywhere, but not the cedar dust from the trees that are in Texas. And a bunch of them didn't understand. Well, apparently that's Arizona. And I don't, and New Mexico actually. And so it a bunch of people thought I was joking. And so then there's how my son and I wound up in Washington State, and thankfully I was capable to escape from that. Yeah. As best as I could. I got my son to safety as best as I could, and then, went and took care of all these other things where I could. There's the modern day book as far as that, regarding my book section, where you click the link to go and um, purchase through Amazon. Same thing in regards to the adventures of Susan B. Ling's Scuba Diver Extraordinaire. The links to purchase my books through Amazon. And then you have my journal blog, The Ornery PSA, updates from 2019 into 2020 and 2021 to this year of 2022. And in reference to any aspect of any hypothetical of any individual that had followed, which would be considered stalking and harassment, regarding during my Medal of Honor art project trips, excuse you, regarding my health care in comparison to being a decent human being. There is nothing that is excusable about that at all, and that goes to the modern day book for all of you in that hypothetical. Do not ever try to pretend. Do not ever try to wish. Do not ever try to convince yourself that you ever did anything worthwhile regarding that. Because that only reproves the problems with pop culture types. I did not invite any of that at all, and if the claim to ever wish that that was actually to assist me, where would that be assistive? In truth. Because you'd actually have to speak with me in truth. Otherwise, I reiterate the points in the modern day book as far as that's concerned, as well as the Ornery PSA, my journal blog on my website, www.susanmeling.com, which is the same as www.ladydoribell.com. And individuals who should have spoken with me using actual words in truth, in comparison, because if in the reference to my fiction book series regarding Failsafe, A Kennedy Curse fused with science fiction fantasy, if people went up to Washington State, wanted to try to claim whatever they wanted to try to claim, said that they Because if it's that pop culture problem regarding that, that lets you know to the level of problems and depravity fully. There is no excuse whatsoever for any of that at all. There is not any human decency, because no one who would actually be a decent human being who had been, by the way, I gave the same warnings as far as from San Antonio, scuba diving. I had informed people in the DFW, supposed to be consenting adult lifestyle. Same thing with Austin, supposed to be consenting adult lifestyle. And the San Antonio, supposed to be consenting adult lifestyle, though I did not consent. So any needless problems as per stupid games because of that sort of garbage in comparison to paying attention to details correctly. Because when you are officially informed of problems that are going on at that point in time, if you actually know people that could actually be assistive, and instead you want to be a depraved heathen, in comparison to a human being, and you stand by and do nothing, well, you have Uvalde, Texas. You have Highlands Park, Illinois. And you have more as far as that's concerned. Because it's been going on for a while. You have what happened in Columbine, as far as Colorado. You have people who purposefully bullied individuals knowing there were problems going on. Those people should be held accountable for what they themselves did, for what they themselves caused, in my opinion. My daughter dealt with the situations regarding McCoy Elementary School because of the students, the parents, and the staff. There is no excuse for that to occur. All of those students and parents and staff should be held accountable for what they are responsible for causing needless problems to. They should legally, in my opinion, legally, financially, and every other capacity be held accountable and responsible for what they were stupid, in my opinion, for. There is nothing that is acceptable about that, and that includes the school district, Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District, and the lawyer firm or attorneys or whatever connected aspects of, in each and every capacity, to whatever level of connection to the knowledge of the length of time and etc., in my opinion. So those particular factors, you wonder why there are mental health problems when you allow that after how many reports I made, how many times I went directly to, as far as the staff members and all those particular situations. Same thing having spoken with who's my biological mother, Gremlin Pinto, as well as my biological father and my biological sister, posted it online, all that sort of stuff the entire time. Told my ex-in-laws as far as what was going on. So those individuals as to who could have actually made the correct choice, and the correct choice would have actually been to speak with me, to actually ask me in comparison. That's the facts. If your excuse, which is only bigotry, if your excuse is because of how I physically look, that is literally bigotry. If your excuse is because of my hair color and or my hairstyle, that is bigotry. If your excuse that is not an excuse is because of my tattoos, that is still bigotry. If your excuse is because of the sound of my voice, then that is bigotry and sexism as to the feminazism. Period, and end of story. There is nothing that is excusable. There is nothing that is a cause for any of that that is worthwhile, nor is there anything about that would ever constitute as a worthwhile reason in any capacity, in my opinion. Because that only reiterates the mental health problems when multiple people, you wonder why there are suicide rates, you wonder why there are the situations such as the Uvalde, as far as that's concerned, and Highland Park. That is literally because of the amount of people that have needed to take responsibility as to the accountability to their stupidity. That is each and every time. And it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Because if it is proven that they purposefully have done so, similar to the McCoy Elementary School, Carrollton, Texas, Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District, as far as that's concerned, as well as any individual in what's supposed to be considered the adult consenting lifestyle, though I did not consent to any needless problems that I did not consent to. I didn't consent to any needless problems. I did not consent to any needless drama as to what I would consider needless problems, as to what I would consider needless drama. And if it has to do with that 50 shades of bullshit or 50 shades of gray because of being a leather dominant female, then there is that. Because then there are those needless problems regarding biological females being stupid brats, trying to get the attention of their whatever in comparison to being a decent human being. In my opinion. So you have a recent journal blog of mine on my website, www.susanmeeling.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com, as to the ornery PSA for the journal blog on the 5th of July, 2022. And so, yes, I saw as far as something that the third book is where the male company guy apparently becomes a submissive to the female that whatever in capacity apparently they have a relationship and they live together or some garbage or whatever as far as that's concerned, and whatever as far as that's, I'm not in a relationship. That's a whole other factor because of what I consider as in comparison. Nonetheless, those needless problems, it's to what I've dealt with. And I warned people about that. Ironically, again, I gave the warning as to essentially Arizona before Washington State, which is obviously before the 50 Shades series. Obviously, as far as that is concerned. So that's 2004, 2005. 2011 apparently is when it had been online. It says it was published. I told people that I knew in person, face-to-face in person, and they claimed that they couldn't see any resemblance. And yet, maybe it's because apparently they might be blinded by their own pop culture aspects. Maybe they are so delusional in regards of their pop culture references because they've been so desensitized that they've needed to wake up and pull the wool off of their own eyes, as far as that's concerned. My opinion. So, while individuals have had whatever viewpoints in comparison to human decency as to being humane in the actual ways in comparison to what's considered the humane society, that's not acceptable for human beings. At all, in my opinion. But that ASPCA, is that why it had to be changed in regards of the name? Because of what certain human beings were doing in reference to, as far as that's concerned. because there's no excuse for that at all in any capacity whatsoever. And again, I reiterate, my Medal of Honor art project, that does not fix that. As far as 2018 or 2017 or 2016 or 2015 or 2014 or 2013 or 2012 or any other time as to those situations, which obviously would include it does not fix or repair 2019, 2020, 2021, or even to this day in 2022. That does not change anything as far as what in hypothetical as to the amount of proof regarding that at all. And anybody that could have actually made the correct choices, yet again, I reiterate the pop culture preference as far as wishful thinking, that would ever be acceptable, because it's not. It is not acceptable to do that outside of actual Renaissance, Rennie Fair garbage crap. And in my opinion, those locations have to officially inform with every legal aspect in comparison to the garbage. Because I haven't, even regarding that Excalibur Fair situation, nobody informed me beforehand. I wouldn't ever be a part of that if I knew beforehand regarding that Rennie type of crap. Ever. Whatsoever. At all. I would not ever consent to that if I knew what that was. That is why I have refused to be a part of that. I have been invited by multiple Rennie Fair types, and I have refused every time. I will not accept, so do not go on with that. Those Rennie Fair types need to accept that literally only on those weekends at those locations. I don't care if you have homeschool, whatever. No, you need to teach your children how to distinguish the difference. Because that Rennie Fair type of crap, that TRF, that SCA, that whatever of whatever, those types of those needless problems. On top of everything else, absolutely unacceptable. Completely heathenic. This is the modern day of 2022 or 2022. Grow up. That is unacceptable behavior whatsoever. So in the hypothetical, as to any individual that either was told in person, face-to-face in person, when discussing with me, and or finding a silver lining regarding the Dropbox link and or the book sent directly to, that sort of stuff, in comparison to speaking in truth with me, face-to-face in person, as far as the hypothetical as to also having known about fail-safe, a Kennedy curse fused with science fiction fantasy, that is the problem regarding those types. I did not write it that way for those Rennie types to play stupid games. That was not any aspect of intention. And if you were a part of the supposed to be consenting adult lifestyle and knew me in person, face-to-face in person, and I gave you warnings about what I was already dealing with, and you being too immature to take your cranium from your sphincter that had been shoved so far up your sphincter in regards to the point of your lower intestines, if you need to have that removed so that way you could actually wipe that crap out of your eyes, to have actual intelligence to pull that shit out of your ears, to actually speak because of the binky in your mouth, grow up fully. Because I did not approve of what occurred comes to the Excalibur Fair. That's why I took a stand against it. No, it is not appreciated to have to deal with any of that garbage in any capacity. What would have been appreciated is people who were actual friends of mine not stirring up that needless crap and actually being decent human beings. I explained how that garbage occurred in reference to the Stoney LaRue concert at Cowboys Dance Hall in March of 2013. I put it in writing, I discussed with people, so on and so forth, before registering it with the Library of Congress, which makes it an official report regarding the facts in comparison to the fiction genre, which I reiterate in reference to the Ornery PSA, my journal blog on my website, www.susanmealing.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com. There is a difference. And no, doing a historical reenactment without consent. I have not consented. I would not consent. This is what's wrong with all of you regarding your mental health disorders. Fully, you try to project your own problems onto other people, wishing that made you better when it doesn't. It actually makes you weaker because in comparison of you actually dealing with it yourself, you go and project it on other people needlessly, unwanted, by the way. That garbage of having to go through all this other stuff, fine, as far as explaining certain things, but yet I didn't consent to it. I didn't actually need to. As far as the situations, I already explained it in writing. And well, yes, great, I've got my official YouTube channel. Does that actually get me justice for what I've dealt with? Does that fix or repair what I've dealt with? Does that undo the damages of what I've dealt with? At all, as far as this lecture is concerned. So you who might be listening, make sure to, if you're going to leave a comment, make sure to have etiquette and respect. But there is my official YouTube channel. Subscribe and make sure to share the links to my official YouTube channel, which I don't give permission for clips at all. So in those particular regards, just because I've already, this goes to the Governor Christine Todd Whitman. Well, here, Governor Christine Todd Whitman of the state of New Jersey, here's your problem, all of them. So instead, as to Marlboro State, as far as that, or whatever it is, it's because these situations where instead of actually being decent human beings, they want to do prescriptions in comparison to actually handling it. And then when they don't do certain things, they want to escape to a video or escape to a movie or escape to a television or escape to a little Rennie Bear type and not actually do anything worthwhile, and then have the nerve to complain that they haven't done anything worthwhile in their existence. Because where they actually could do something that would be actually worthwhile, that would actually assist, where it would actually bring forward betterment, the complaints, as far as that's concerned, the police say a cracker sort of garbage. That's what's wrong. Fully. As far as those types, ignorantly thinking that that's better. than actually handling stuff. And then what happened in regards to the 11th of September 2001? What individuals, in reference to these, did anything that was worthwhile? Or did they go further into that instead? Again, you can leave a comment. Just make sure to have etiquette and respect. So I gave warnings, and similarly to when I got back in 2019, those needless problems in comparison, and 2020, and those situations in 2021, and this year 2022. Oh wait, all of my work, I believe I wrote about something in regards of my journal blog updates as to the ornery PSA about the American Civil War. You know, there just hasn't been any payments. And I believe that there was a certain set of, but that's only if people aren't ignorant to see that. Because that literally goes back to that. As to those situations. No, it's not appreciated. In regards of this particular stuff, I shouldn't have to. I've already clarified it. I'd actually prefer to be capable to live my own life the way I'd actually prefer to live my own life as to my own ideals in comparison. Yeah, where I don't have to deal with needless drama, where I don't have to constantly go over the same details over and over and over again in any capacity, where I could actually have real new experiences in comparison to the same sorts of needless drama. You know, no different than certain aspects of when I was in New Jersey in the tri-state area as a child and a teenager as a child, teenager aspect of, as to the children I dealt with, and then, you know, the factors as to the Illinois garbage, and then the stuff in reference to the state of Texas, and so on and so forth. So in reference to when I was volunteering at Club Sapphire, and already having been informed, having spoken within truth in front of the area as to the entrance to Homeland Security, having spoken with people, look, it doesn't matter what area of the United States of America it is, where people could actually speak within truth, and if they actually know someone that can actually assist, what is that? So I've been in Democrat states and Democrat cities, as well as Republican states and Republican cities. What's the problem as far as getting things done correctly at that point? Because as far as I've seen, when it comes to the armed forces of the United States of America, they seem to do what they can to actually fix and repair stuff in comparison to the civilian sector. Because in the civilian sector, they seem to do that civilian recreational scuba diving laziness garbage. How many years and decades? Is it something similar to the Clear Springs Scuba Park problem regarding the purple water bottle? Is that what the problem is in reference to civilian recreational lazy scuba divers? And what joke I made as to the reference of, well, it's in the water and the air you breathe as to how strong I am. Because, you know, my childhood is how my childhood was. Because you don't have that many scuba divers out from New Jersey as you do in other areas. You have military scuba divers instead of that civilian recreational lazy type. So, you know, but I got made fun of because how dare I? You know, there wasn't, similar to anyone in the supposed to be consenting adult lifestyle, with the exception of a very small amount of times, less than 10, by the way, less than 10 times for the entire time that I've been involved with what's supposed to be considered the consenting adult lifestyle. Less than 10 times have I ever been invited anywhere outside of an event to actually spend time with people outside of an event. When it comes to the civilian, lazy, recreational scuba diving aspects, there is not any individual that ever invited me personally to spend time outside of scuba diving. Not one. So in any hypothetical of those types of those people who had falsely accused me of being snobby, you didn't ever invite me out. Knowing I am a single mom. Knowing that my son and my daughter, as far as making sure that they were properly taken care of. So if my schedule just was an inconvenient truth to you and you needed to accept the fact that it was actually you who was snobby, it was you who was haughty, in comparison, well, the proof is as the proof is. Because in comparison to a event or whatever could actually get to know, could actually invite out to a location instead to actually get to know the individual. If that's actually what is wanted. But if not, as per the proof as to the choices, because I haven't ever had that, except for less than 10 times where somebody else invited me. Outside of the events to go out somewhere. I don't even think I can hit 10 with that, actually. To go out, because you'd actually have to be willing to be seen with me in public. Obviously. So in that reference, I literally can only think of less than 10 times, especially in regards of non-dating relationships. And even with those dating relationships, not as though we really went anywhere else instead anyway. Because that would require actually having a dating relationship in comparison. I literally, as far as when I was more involved in what's supposed to be considered the consenting adult lifestyle, there is literally only one male that I had dated and been engaged to twice, where we went other locations than just there, as far as the knowledge and all that sort of stuff in the state of Texas. That lets you know in that truth of those factors. Thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. Make sure to go click on the link and listen to the information regarding that particular individual and his work. And go to my website, www.susanmeeling.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com. Subscribe to my official YouTube channel. Like my official YouTube videos, share the links to my official YouTube videos, and if you're going to leave a comment, make sure to have etiquette and respect. Which, going back to that etiquette and respect, individuals, especially those pop culture types, that have had more ease with that in comparison to in-person, face-to-face, in-person discussions, well, I guess I understand why there wasn't that in that reference. Because if the only way you would invite me is through someone else, I'm the dominant. So, in comparison. Anyway, oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, save us that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. The 5th of July, 2022.